It's so funny how noisy my brain is, and everyone's brain is noisy. It's what it does. It makes thoughts. And the problem is, I think in most of our lives, the root of suffering is following that brain noise and listening to that brain noise.
Vulnerability is a key part of our lives, and yet most of us rarely express ourselves in a vulnerable way. Granted though, it's not an easy habit to develop. Vulnerability isn't really something that is taught to us, and on top of that, a lot of us aren't exposed to it at all. At least for me, I have rarely seen the adult people in my life be vulnerable. Nothing against them, that's just how I see it. I am definitely no expert in the psychology behind vulnerability, but I wanted to make this video to provide a general guide to being vulnerable, and why it is extremely important for you. Also, I'll make sure to include the actual benefits of vulnerability, and hopefully I can motivate you to work on this habit and also help others learn the importance of being vulnerable. With that said, let's get started. First, I would like to start by talking about what not to do in terms of being vulnerable. There is definitely a way to get vulnerability wrong, and I think it has to do with how people react and perceive your act of vulnerability. If you don't express yourself in the right way, you're going to come off like you're only looking for pity. Let me give an example. Let's say you are struggling to make friends, and you want to talk about it with someone. If you express this by saying something like, "No one wants to be my friend," it's likely that this will get interpreted in the wrong way. You might have positive intentions. People are going to assume you are simply looking for pity comments like, "I'm sure someone is out there for you." There is a strong chance they won't take you seriously and will avoid engaging in a meaningful conversation that can actually help you. Here's a better way to express it. I understand the challenges of meeting new people. It's something that I'm trying to improve. It has the same goal in mind, opening up about your struggle to make friends. But there is an added sense of purpose and drive in the statement. You are vocalizing that you want to improve and that you are taking action. People will see this and will be more likely to actually give you advice and not just a general line. You want to make sure that in your word choice, you are expressing both an acknowledgement of weakness and a desire to improve. You would be surprised by the types of conversations you can have after you are vulnerable. Most people share a lot of similar struggles, and we want to share what's going on and collaborate on how to improve. The only problem is most conversations will never reach that point. This is mostly because people are fearful, which is completely natural. They are scared of being judged for their vulnerability, or feel like it's not worth talking about. If you have a desire to have these intimate conversations, opening up first can get you there. Now, it can't be your opening line in a conversation, but if you feel comfortable with the person, try to guide the flow of talking to allow you to open up. You could ask a question that leads to the topic like, "Do you find it easy to make friends?" After being vulnerable yourself, the person you are talking to will be much more likely to open up because you have made them more comfortable. As I said in the beginning, a lot of us are going through the same struggles, so you'll probably find that someone will relate to the issue you open up about. This can lead to invaluable collaboration, where both of you share lessons and failures so that you can learn from each other and continue improving. In any instance, do not let the fear of judgment stop you from opening up first. It might always be there, but you have to push past it and be vulnerable. You'll never know where the conversation could lead after. Bottling in your problems is a very common issue that we all deal with, and it's a direct consequence of not being vulnerable. I believe there are three main factors that contribute to one's habit of bottling in their problems. The first is fear, or more specifically, the fear that being vulnerable will produce more negative effects than positives. The second is the possibility that you have no one to go to, or at least you feel like you don't. And finally, the third is that you feel like you don't deserve to be heard. You don't believe your problems are worth talking about. If you relate to any of these, don't worry, you're one of many. Let me try to convince you why you need to open up. When you bottle all your struggles in, they become something impossible to beat alone. They take a form in your mind that can't be solved by just reshaping your mindset or watching a video. For more significant issues, opening up and sharing what's going on will be a necessity. But when you choose to open up, it will give yourself an opportunity to be helped, to get advice, and to grow. However, I understand the amount of fear you may have for actually being vulnerable to someone, so I want to help a little more. The first tip I have is to plan it out and stick to it. Pick a day and time when you are going to talk to the person, and try your best not to overthink or worry leading up to the date. Secondly, write out what you want to say. You may not have to put down every word, but at least getting down a few points can ease your fear of not saying exactly what you want to. Most importantly, be honest. The more you are willing to share, the more a person can help you. The final point that I would like to discuss is an indirect benefit that can come from being vulnerable, but it's still equally as valuable as everything else I've talked about. When you are vulnerable in your life, there is a strong chance you can inspire someone else to be vulnerable, either in the moment or in the future. There are a lot of situations where this could happen without you even realizing it. Public speaking is a great example. It requires you to put yourself in a very vulnerable situation where everyone's attention is on you. Doing something like that, and more importantly, doing it well, can motivate someone to improve their own public speaking skills. Or it could be that you are having a conversation with someone and during the talk, you are vulnerable. Hearing you open up might push them to finally share something of their own. Maybe they do it then, or maybe they do it in a week. Just being a part of helping them is what matters though. In addition to inspiring through being vulnerable yourself, you could talk directly about why vulnerability is important, like I'm doing right now. Overall, you can greatly impact the way people view vulnerability. You may not always see the direct results, but just know that when you open up, not only do people care about what you have to say, but they are inspired to do the same. And with that, I hope you found this video on vulnerability to be worth your time. If you have any thoughts or future video suggestions, leave them in the comments. As always, this has been Dark Horse, and I will see you in the next video.